Chapter 1. Atiro High School.
Sit and drink some water. You've been overexerting yourself lately.
Corey side-glanced at his dad from the couch. His father was beaming at his younger son and looked concerned for his well-being. He didn't hate his brother, but how his family acted towards him as if he was some god, Corey quickly turned away.
Dad, I'm fine. Moreover, isn't it what you wanted from me?
His younger brother sounded embarrassed, and he knew his father might have pulled back when he tried to wipe the sweat off his head.
I did, but you're doing it unnecessarily over. Now, have some rest.
His father frantically glanced around before he scowled at Corey, who was sitting on the couch, seemingly peaceful.
Get up and make yourself useful. Give your brother a drink to restore his strength. After all, he's keeping up the family's reputation.
His father hadn't finished the taunt, and Corey was already on his feet and off from there. He felt agitated while he heard his brother argue behind his back.
Dad, there are other couches too. Why did you have to pick on him?
He scoffed at his brother's word. If not for him, things would have been better. What the hell are you thinking, Corey? His existence alone gave you some peace. He scowled and clicked his tongue under his breath before he angrily picked up an energy drink can and went back to the living area. He could hear his father argue with his brother, telling him how he shouldn't be bothered for someone being a disgrace to their family. His brother spotted him first and passed him a weak smile, equally embarrassed, and tried to stop his father. However, Corey didn't care. He threw the can in his brother's direction, harsher than intended, and went away without giving a second look.
Thump! Ugh! You filthy, ungrateful child! Come back here!
His eyebrows lifted in realization after hearing his father's furious voice.
Dad, please, he didn't mean it.
He meant it as much as he did it, hitting his father intentionally. What the fuck does he think?
Corey's eyes grew wide. He was a bit afraid of what his father might do. He didn't mean to hit him. He was just throwing it towards Junya. It's his father's fault for being in the way. His body knew better than his mind. Though he was defending himself against the incident in his head, he knew staying here would be a huge mistake. Before he could grasp the situation, he already had his sling bag over his shoulder and was rushing to get the shoes on before he ran off through the front gate. The air was hitting his face, and he cursed under his breath. So much for avoiding school. He hated it. All he wanted to do was relax at home and avoid all the noisy people out there in the school. Though his family is nosy much, but at least they were limited. Moreover, he would have to endure all those inferior second genders and some arrogant asses in the school.
Ugh!
His anger rising, he hit a stone on the street with a force that sent it off, going far. His family's hatred was playing in his mind as he walked his way to school. It was hard to take in the surroundings while he was loathing his family. He hated being what he was, the strongest, powerful, and... Don't say that, Mom, especially when you're forcing me to do this. His eyes snapped at the source of the voice. He couldn't see anyone, but he heard a sad voice and a hollow laugh escaped his throat. Looks like it isn't just me and my family. Iko, I love you, son. Corey stopped, hearing those words by the feminine voice. He craned his neck higher in hope of getting a glimpse of the people over the bushy fence that stood taller. He could only see their heads, a small head disappearing as he heard the boy run away, and a slightly taller head with black hair and a hand raised, waving at the front of the house. He sighed, realizing he mistook the incident as similar to his. Instantly, he started hating everything more. He wished he didn't hear their conversation. This made his look stupid and idiotic and screw you, Hanasuma. He cursed his entire family for feeling this way. After walking for a few minutes, he begrudgingly tisked his tongue at the sight of the school. Iko Airashi High School. Even if he wanted, he couldn't hate this place. Doesn't mean he didn't love it. This is the only place where he can vent out his frustration and not care. There was no one who could stand up against him. Not even the teachers would say a thing. Just like his parents, they had given up on him, and he loves it that way. A free bird of his own. Hey, you did get a Did you get a makeover? The chattering around him made his frown deeper. His ears couldn't bear those happy, giggling voices of these dumb kids. Thus, he dragged his feet inside, making a beeline straight to his class. He didn't bother to pick up his schedule, which he knew someone would hand him later. Just as he reached the locker, someone dashed him in the locker before a hand sneaked up around his neck.
What's up, badass?
He felt a fist on his shoulder and bit his lips to not let out a string of curses directed over the obvious feminine voice.
Utsukushi, get off!
He growled under his breath as he heard his best friend laugh. As he was slamming the lockers closed, his eyes lifted and met a new face searching for his lockers. He sucked in a breath at the boy who looked very uncomfortable and nervous. His fingers were tightened around the straps of his bags as he mumbled something under his breath. Brown hair with streaks of blue that looked natural. A small pointed nose with full lips that were brightly set perfectly in round face. The boy glanced around, sighing, before continuing his search, and he could feel his heart rile up, inappropriately.
Take this, lazy ass, and stop slacking.
Suddenly, a piece of paper was slammed on his face, and Corey grunted, getting agitated. He didn't know why, but he wants to kill his best friend for some fucking reason.
Whoa, calm your horses, Hansuma-kun,
he heard his friend say in submission that made him breathe deeply to calm down.
Another fight?
Though Pinky was asking him, Corey was trying to find that new boy who was nowhere to be found. His frown deepened when unable to explain how he felt, so when his friend shook him, he just nodded his answer.
Looks bad, since you're off, and that never happens, by the way,
she answered, and only now he looked over at his best friend's smiling face. We're together? He asked, not caring to explain that he was talking about the classes. He mentally noted that Pinky looked very different than last year.
Yeah, as if they couldn't go against the Hanasuma's request.
She giggled, gesturing the emphasized word as if saying a brand name. He knew that it was, but he didn't have the heart to joke about it. Would it?
You look different,
he finally stated and locked his turquoise eyes with Pinky's black one. She sheepishly rubbed her slender arms before flashing him a wide, toothy grin.
I'm trying to get attention of a boy in our school,
she started, and Corey was already angry by now. She frantically waved her hand in front of him as defense.
Oh, he's cute and a good guy. Trust me,
she whined, and Corey was still not convinced.
Shut it, it's Utsukushi.
He growled, catching attention of a few late students, though they cared less.
Common. I'm already 16 and ready to date. Just because you want to die lonely doesn't mean you'll stop me. Plus, I am helpless.
She averted her eyes, whispering the last part. This was successful to shut Corey. The way she looked down and sounded helpless was hinting something. Soon, realization dawned upon him, and he groaned in frustration. Rubbing his face, he inhaled sharply, catching Pinky's attention.
All right, but...
He was almost shouting, not being able to wrap the idea of his friend finding her mate.
First, I'll make sure he isn't any of what you said, and only then will you date him,
he declared, not caring if this was beyond her control. Pinky, on the other hand, was elated to hear it. The only person that matters to her like him has decided to give her mate a chance. She trusted his judgment better than hers. It meant a lot for her.
Aw,
thank you, my darling. She jumped on him, crushing him in a death trap hug. He hit her arm to set him free and rolled his eyes, hearing her laugh.
The bell's about to ring,
he informed, and she dragged him towards their first class of the last year. As he approached the class, his cool composure was threatened. There, in the back of the class, where it was meant to be his seat, was someone already occupying it. He pushed Pinky off when he spotted a mob of brown hair amidst other fellow classmates that had gathered around his chair.
Shit.
Oh, shit. He ignored Pinky's comment and didn't stop when she called his name out. He was already rushing towards the small crowd, the whispering of other students falling on deaf ears. They were all scared of what was going to happen next. Considering Hansuma's ego and attitude, whoever was at the receiving end would get it bad.
How dare you!
Corey all but growled as he pushed the small group away and slammed his palm harshly on his desk.
Oh no. Airashi, hurry up! We apologize.
He ignored what others were saying as he was fuming in anger. These mere weaklings think they can even talk to me. It was making him frustrated all the more. His perfect jawline turned sharper when he lifted his head up in a condescending manner, his turquoise eyes twitching as he finally lifted his eyes to see who was daring enough to offend him. A small gasp almost escaped his lips when he spotted the same guy from earlier. His big, fish-shaped eyes were copper in color and glossy with tears. The boy was practically shaking in fear as he locked his eyes with Corey. Corey's heart started beating so loud that he feared. What's happening? He doesn't know. Somehow, everything around him dissolved, and it was just those copper eyes that stared back at him. Suddenly his body turned hot. He sweated. His hands lifted, screaming him to touch him. Regardless of what his body wanted, the boy shut his eyes, terrified, and the spell broke. Corey felt like he was thrown back to reality and watched as the boy darted off to hide behind one of his fellow classmates, Sapporo Zoyosha. Out of a blue, a strong, fruity scent hit Corey's nostrils. It was mixed with burnt wood. Corey was taken aback. This was new, and undoubtedly belonging to the new boy. His senses paralyzed as the scent tugged every nerve of his heart. He was intoxicated and calmed him down. Suddenly, his anger flared up when the reality dawned upon him. This boy was Omega. To see his heart act that way was nuisance for someone that happened to be an Omega. Tsk. He cannot believe, but what ate him all the more was the indescribable jealousy. Seeing the Omega take protection from another Alpha, which wasn't him, made him furious. Corey wanted to beat the Alpha black and blue. Luckily, the bell had rung a long time back, and their teacher walked in.
Everyone get back to your seats.
Everyone let out a sigh of relief seeing their teacher and rushed to grab a seat, except for the new boy. He stood lost and scared.
You're sent,
Corey warned him, unable to endure it anymore. Corey was scared to know what would happen if his scent keeps on calling him. The boy jumped at his voice and nodded meekly. I apologize, he murmured, and Corey's eyes widened before zeroing in on him.
Fucking damn it. He sounds cute.
Crushing already, are we?
He jolted in his chair hearing Pinky's voice and scowled at her.
Okay, I'll assume I didn't notice it.
She beamed and took the next place beside him.